get copies.
Awesome. All righty. Yes, and we are going to have time at the end of this presentation to go through any questions that people put in the Q&A box. So if there's something that you have a question about as we're going along, we probably won't address it in the moment, but we will look over and see if there's a bunch of questions that would be helpful to go over for everyone and cover those at the end. So, and our goal is to be done and out of here in an hour. So we promise not to hold you too long. All right. Here. Okay, so I'm Becky Bolito. I'm the post-secondary counselor at Vernon Hills High School. Erin introduced herself just a couple minutes ago. You want to say hi again, Erin?
Sure. Hi again. I'm Erin Murphy. I am the post-secondary counselor at Libertyville. Glad to see everyone here.
Yes, and we are excited to have this evening to kind of kick off things with our juniors. I know that a lot of juniors are starting to think about, you know, their college search or their plans for after high school. And so this evening is just supposed to cover some of the starting points, what to think about and consider as you start this process. So tonight we're going to talk about how you find your fit when you're looking for a college. We'll go over some resources, go over testing, a very basic timeline for what you should be doing next semester and over the summer. We'll talk about upcoming programs, and then, like we said, we'll have some time for Q&A at the end.
All right, we're going to start the evening talking about what fit means, finding that college fit. And I'll go ahead and read this quote because it's a wonderful quote to have in mind. College is a match to be made, not a prize to be won. All too often, students and parents are romanced by a name rather than looking for the best matches. In the end, the best fit should be what the student determines, and there should be several fits, not just one. And I would argue that not only should there be several fits, but I really feel confident telling everyone attending tonight there are several fits and there are several options for your sophomore, junior, for your student. So we just like to get everyone kind of on the same page around the idea that that best fit for you, if I'm speaking to students, or for your student is going to be unique and feel best for them. So happy and healthy on that college campus that feels good. When we get into, I'm going to go next slide, Ms. Bolito, thank you. When we get into what makes a college a good fit, can you click for me, Becky?
Yep,
oh,
is that good now?
Perfect, thank you.
Sorry, somebody mentioned that there was an echo, so I was just looking at our settings to make sure that I had the sound settings on. I'm hoping everyone's not hearing an echo. If you are, please let us know in the Q&A. So Erin, it says it's really hard to hear you at the moment. I'm guessing it's...
I need to speak louder, so I can do that. Okay, so I will get up on top of my microphone. So what makes a college a good fit? You see a graph up here talking about three big ideas of academic, social, and financial. And some of the aspects that we will talk through, we will continue to talk to your students about, to families as and if needed, include those pieces of financially attainable. What does that mean to your family? And this is a good prompt for if that conversation hasn't been happening. I'm checking for, okay, I'm sorry, I looked for sound updates real quick. If you have not yet had as honest of a conversation as you feel comfortable having with your high school student about what financially attainable means to your family, this is a great prompt and a great time to do that. And Ms. Bolito and I, we don't advocate for parents having to share tax returns and deep specifics about family finances, but I do know that it is wildly empowering for everyone, for students and parents to be on the same page about this is our scenario. So if that means that there's a college fund that supports X amount if that means that the student is more independent in the process, including costs. Those are the pieces of the conversation that really help navigate and empower these conversations around a fit related to finances. And everything we talk about tonight, we'll be sharing more resources and kind of deeper dives into each section. But I'm going to keep going with program of study. So this topic matches academic fit. Does the campus or campuses that your student is exploring offer the major, the programs, the supports, the research opportunities that match their interests and or help them reach those career goals that they're aiming for? So definitely trying to find that. And then that kind of leads into the level of rigor as well. Is your student interested in a strong research institution where they'll be working on research perhaps as an undergraduate? Is your student interested in a different program that challenges them in and out of the classroom? Just the level of rigor and who the classmates are, what the challenges are on campus, how the academics match your students' interests, abilities, etc. And then the last two, we talk about feeling like home and valuing the student that's coming there. One thing we say over and over to students is there should be a high level of comfort and excitement at the campus that they are moving on to after high school. And we certainly like to see on that eventual college list that your student's applying to, at least 2-3 schools that are likely to perhaps honor the academic work your students done, value them in that way, perhaps with merit scholarships. And there's a mutual sense of excitement around that match that's happened through the research and application process. We will move on. So we get kind of into the more detailed aspects of creating this college list. And again, I've hit on cost. If you remember anything about costs from tonight's webinar, I hope you'll remember to look up net price calculator. So that is a phrase that actually every college campus is required to have some sort of net price calculator available through their financial aid website. But you can also Google net price calculator and get to a main page. College Board offers a variety of calculators. But this tool allows you and or your student to input some basic information about family income, sometimes academic performance. Again, I mentioned each college is required to have one. They can decide how simple or complex those calculators are. So don't be surprised if you bounce around and you see different factors taken into account in order to give you a net price calculator outcome, which ultimately lets you know, based on these facts about our family and my students' detailed information, this is what we can expect this college campus to cost our family. So again, net price calculator, great tools. Don't do like 10 schools at once, and try to look at these calculators when you're feeling pretty good about things in life, because it can feel like a lot, and those numbers can be pretty big. Major, again, I talked about academics, but I had a student this morning in our college resource center working on applications for a couple schools, and kind of got stuck because the school wasn't showing the major that they thought they had. So we were making some quick pivots and trying to find matches. But you want to make sure that the list your students building, those campuses, if not the very specific major they're looking for, at least something in the ballpark of their interests, right? And when I talk about major, I just also want to say undecided is absolutely okay. Like more than half of students, I think that's the latest stat I heard, go to school undecided. So again, that's the importance of knowing I'm interested in these areas, but I'm not quite sure yet. And that is so healthy and okay. So considering majors offered, knowing undecided is okay, and being prepared to go one direction once you're on that campus. Size is another factor. Does your student want a smaller, more intimate setting where maybe they're having dinner with their professor and having, knowing everyone on campus? Or are they excited about being at those football games on the weekend with 30,000 of their closest friends? So, and everything in between. So that size can definitely impact the feel of your campus, and something to consider. And that kind of links into as well location. Location is something I often start with students, because you can start with 3,500 college campuses out there, which feels kind of like a brain explosion. And if we start with location, we can shrink that list pretty dramatically with 2 clicks on a college search. So I will often ask a student, think about a radius from home. Is there a distance from home that you're comfortable to consider? Or is Montana the place you have to be? Because that is also going to very much shrink that college list pretty quickly. So it can be state, it can be distance from home. It can also be type of location. Is your student a super city kid? Or do they like smaller settings? So kind of thinking of city, small, large town, and rural locations is another piece of kind of creating this list that's a match. And then I touched on academic programs. We've talked about majors and academics, but academic programs can also include things like, does this campus offer an honors program where my student's going to receive benefits like early course selection and extra attention from professors and, enriched studies in their program? Does the school support study abroad? Does the school offer really cool career advising? Does the school support my unique need, whatever that might be? What are the student supports like, and how does this campus care for students in and out of the classroom? I'm taking a breath.
All right. So some other things that you will consider as you're developing your list, also extremely important, is the admission likelihood, right? So looking at the different sources of information that we will talk about a little bit more tonight to see how you juniors compare to the typical profile of accepted students at a college. And, we say like a good list can be like from 1 to 5-ish, but you need to, some kids, they find one school, they know they're going to be admitted, they know they love it financially, and they're done. Okay. So, but it is obviously important to know if a school is going to be an academic reach for you, or how you fit their typical admission standards. The student body, I have a lot of students that will look at the different demographics, right? If they're looking to be on campus with a diverse student body. I've also had Jewish students who want to make sure that there's a halal on campus, whatever it is that might be important to you to make that college feel more comfortable and like home. Those are things that you can do on your research end of things. And they are definitely something that you want to consider as you're developing your list. For social atmosphere, some students, for example, know that they want to participate in Greek life, right? And so when the colleges come to visit in the fall, and we have little college visits here at Vernon Hills and at Libertyville, I know a lot of students will ask the reps, is there Greek life? Or, what do students like to do outside of class time? The fact of the matter is that when you're in college, there's a lot more to your life than just your classes, right? Those are obviously the reason you're going to college, but you want to make sure there's other things outside of class that the college can offer you. And that kind of rolls into extracurriculars, right? Whether that is you want to see if you can play an NCAA sport, or you want to know that there's intramurals or business fraternities, or whatever it may be. You have each school has their website with all of their different activities, and every college tour that I've been on has highlighted the fact that if there's something that you want to do that a college doesn't offer, that you can go ahead and start that program at the college. But it is good to make sure that there are things that appeal to your interests on each college campus you're considering. And then, like I mentioned, your list may be different in number from your friend. The one thing that needs to be common amongst all lists is that there must be one school that we're going to refer to as the foundation school. Okay. And some people might call this a safety school, but to us, that sounds kind of like that school is lesser than, right? A foundation school, the most important thing is that it's a school that you'll be admitted and that you would be happy at and that you can afford. Okay, so those three different areas that we talked about, the foundation school is going to hit those. And this is sometimes it's the easiest school to find. For other kids, it's the harder school to find. For a lot of our students, the foundation school could be CLC, right? The College of Lake County. The price is pretty, it's out there. It's going to be under $5,000. And students know they'll be admitted, but there's a wide range of schools that you would be admissible at. So your foundation school shouldn't be a school where when you're talking about it, you have a sense of dread. Like, well, if this is where I have to end up, like I'll be devastated. Well, let's find you a school you're admissible at where you would also be happy and that it's in a financial comfort spot for your family. Okay, and so this healthy college list, it can consist of 1 to 9 schools. Some of you may be friends with seniors and heard some crazy high numbers in terms of the number of applications they've submitted. The average number for both Libertyville and Vernon Hills High School for last year's graduating class was 6.6. Okay. And so as much as you may hear kids talking about applying to more than 10 schools, there are also students that are applying to 3 to 5 schools. And the only rules that we really say there are about your list is that it must have at least one foundation school. And then it could include, some probable schools and some reach schools, but it definitely just needs that one foundation school. All right, so we are going to do a little quick interactive activity. We're going to showcase some campuses around the country and see if when you're reading about them blindly, if you can get a sense for which one might stand out as one you would especially be interested in. So school number 1, everyone take in these pictures, okay? You can see there's a nice little quad picture. Looks like there's some city, that fancy Barnes and Noble city bookstore. Let's read about the school. All right, it is a private university in a city. There's around 15,000 students. The animation major at the school is ranked 4th in the United States. They have very competitive fine arts programs that are nationally regarded. And they have over 300 academic programs, all that are combined with liberal arts core curriculum. This college operates on a quarter system instead of a semester system. And they do have some programs, accelerated programs in medicine, physician's assistants, in pharmacy, physical therapy, and more. And then our little hint there is it's not too far from home. All right, let's look at school number 2. All right, we can see the ski lift. And then obviously some beautiful fall colors over to the left. Let's read some facts about the school. So this is a public school with around 7,000 students. The average class size is going to be 25 to 30 students. It's a STEM focused school. It's been called the number 2 in colleges where grads make 6 figures. It's an academically very rigorous school. The average GPA for incoming freshmen is a 3.8, and they're doing research projects that could include launching nanosatellites into space. They've worked on prosthetics for amputees. and AI for kids. And then, fun enough, snowboarding is a PE class option for this college.
Okay, we've got school number 3. You can see some happy students walking in the sunshine, some glorious photos of the greenery, and it looks like an amazing dining hall with lots of wonderful light and good energy. I'm going to read some facts about this school. This is a private school with 1,000 students. Students take one class at a time with intense academic rigor. It is a liberal arts campus, but does offer engineering, business, and education. It does offer a diverse student body geographically and ethnically. 52% of students study off campus at some point. Recent courses include Geology of New Zealand, Medieval Lit in Florence, Gender and Development in India, and Macro Econ in Shanghai. The dance major and BFA in musical theater are some special offerings. And this campus is in a small town, but with major college towns nearby. And our final option in our Pick Your Campus survey. You can see, again, these schools do a great job with some landscaping and greenery and just seeing some of the campus beauty. And this campus is a public university with 22,000 students, Division I athletics. It is home to one of the most acclaimed medical centers in the U.S., ranked #1 public university for writing in the disciplines. It is a very college town energy location. 56% of the students come from in-state, but 27% come from Illinois. And you can see some notable alumni: Tom Brokaw, Ashton Kutcher, W.P. Kinsella, Tennessee Williams, and John Irving, hitting on those authors. So we are going to open up a poll.
Go ahead and start answering with which college you would choose based off of those brief descriptions and limited photos.
This is very fun. There should be a prize. It's close.
All right. You're going to we'll give you 10 more seconds to answer if you haven't yet.
Need to break that tie.
I know.
Yes. All right.
All right. Okay. So, let's see here. Erin, let's go over what the schools were.
Okay.
So #1 was DePaul University, right in Chicago. #2 is Michigan Tech University, way up north in Michigan. You gotta love the snow.
#3 was Cornell College in Iowa. And #4, I think we'll see the results. University of Iowa. So very popular with Illinois students.
Yes, and so we had a pretty good range. It wasn't all one school. We had a lot of University of Iowa schools, but actually it's just one more than how many people chose DePaul. And I think the idea here, that we want to convey is you may have heard things about certain schools. You may have certain ideas of what a school, if it should make it on your list or not, without really knowing too much about it, just maybe knowing what your friends have said about it. And so we want you to keep an open mind and pick things based on what's important to you.
Yes, thank you for participating in that. I think too, for those of you who might have voted for a school that surprised you, keep thinking on that, right? And kind of considering what drew you to that vote and how that might broaden and support your eventual search and list. Okay, I'm the lucky one that gets to dive a little bit into testing. Let's all take a deep breath. It's okay. But the testing landscape, for those of you who have older students that have done the testing thing and the college admissions thing, things do look different than they looked to, even 2-3 years ago. So just to give you some updates on what we know is true, right? PSAT and state testing. For juniors who took the PSAT, you can look for those scores to be released online by December 7th. So that is stunningly next week, right? Ask questions about that if you want to talk with your counselor or come by this your respective CRC for questions about what does my score mean or what can I do with this score. Feel free to do that, make those scores meaningful and review how you did on those. The state SAT will be given to all juniors on Wednesday, April 12th. You do not have to register for this. So don't think about logging into College Board to register. The school takes care of that. This state testing date is a graduation requirement. And just like we said on here, some students have already asked both of us, like, I've already taken it, I'm done. And unfortunately, we can't count a Saturday test date that you've taken or you plan to take as the state SAT. Without crushing this topic, the state date is a requirement, and it just so happens that Illinois uses the SAT as a part of a measure for how high schools are performing overall. The silver lining to that fact is that students taking it on a state day, if that's their one and done for a college admission exam, that works, right? So I'm trying to find the bright spot there. But Wednesday, April 12th, come to school, knock it out, check it off. Other notes about testing. So the SATs out there, you're taking that for sure. You can obviously take that more than once. The ACT still exists and is out there and is accepted by college campuses. So let's get that fact out there, that schools that do want to see a score, or for students that are listening right now that plan to absolutely test and send scores, either assessment is accepted. So don't feel like one is preferred. There's no campus that says we want one over the other. College, offices of admission want to see your best, right? So they are going to encourage you, if you send scores, to send your best of what you've been able to do, whether that's the ACT or the SAT. So we like to at least make you aware that both are available. We pushed out and we will continue to push out those Saturday test dates. All of the independent testing, if you're going to take the ACT, if you're going to take the SAT again, all of that registration process goes through the respective test sites, right? So College Board or ACT student. We do not necessarily recommend that you list colleges on your test registration, that you're able to do that for up to 4 schools at no charge. So it does save you some money for schools that you might want to send. But it also means that score is going to that school regardless of how you did. So we like to remind students and families that those scores are your property, and empower you to think about, I'm going to wait and see, and then I'm going to decide how I can best polish and complete my application related to what's required and what I have completed, etc. In the application cycle. Do not spend money to practice these tests. There are plenty of free practice opportunities. I promise you that your curriculum at Vernon Hills and Libertyville is preparing you for the content on these assessments. And again, even both testing sites offer free opportunities, including Khan Academy, that's linked to College Board and can be personalized for test prep. My quickest answer to test prep is to read. Honestly, read an article or a short story or something of interest every week, and tell your mom or dad, little brother, little sister, uncle, whoever, tell them about what you read, because then you're also reading and you're practicing comprehension. So I'm a big fan of reading. I think Miss Belita might be too. She was in that English classroom.
Yes, and I am just gonna add a couple things. we are going to have a presentation done by some test prep, standardized testing experts from Compass Prep, who always do a nice job of explaining the importance or lack of importance of these standardized tests and different, things to consider when taking them. That will be in February, I believe, our one for juniors. And of course, we will continue to send you registration info for that. The other thing that I wanted to mention is something that Compass Prep has taught us is that, it can be really hard to predict if a student is going to do better on the ACT versus the SAT. That a lot of times it just means sitting for a practice test for each one and then comparing scores. And many times students may have very comparable scores, but we see it all the time, students who have one test that they just prefer, right? And maybe they do better on that test, and there's not necessarily an explanation. This chart we have here is helpful in guiding like some of the differences, but truly I think you would have to sit for both. And we do have students who take both. But now that we are in a time where a lot of colleges are making the standardized test requirement optional for admissions, we like to take a little bit of the stress and importance away from like all of this craziness of the ACT and SAT. And that's why we mentioned, maybe don't send your test scores, because we've seen so many students who have opted to not include test scores as part of their application. And so this would help you, keep that option open for next fall when you begin your applications.
And just on that note, really quick, sorry, I don't think I hit on the test optional aspect quite enough, but we're going to share a couple resources. Another one is fairtest.org, which is a centralized website that helps students know which schools are requiring scores, things like that. We'll share that again, I promise. But I don't want students to lose sight of the fact that your transcript, your activities, your grade point average, your letters of rec, those are all going to weigh into that polished application. And there is no test score that will outweigh performance in classes through your 3 years of high school upon applying to schools. And it's become a factor, but it's not a central factor. And again, just like to kind of take a deep breath around that, even though it's sometimes hard to do.
Yeah. And I think, we're here at the last, push of first semester juniors. And what I tell students all the time is, between now and the end of the semester, this is your time to push and do whatever you need to do to solidify your grades and to less of a iffy territory. If you're between a B and a C, what can you do? Can you meet with a teacher? Does it mean studying an extra night? Whatever it is. And just know that, these grades for junior year are going to be the last grades that colleges see when they're looking at your application. So the most important thing that you could be doing right now in terms of preparing for life after Vernon Hills or Libertyville is, buckling down on your academics right now. And then you will be rewarded with 2 weeks of break afterwards. All right, so we have this list of different resources, and within our district, both schools utilize Google Classroom, and I believe, both schools have really great numbers in terms of juniors who have accepted their invite into those classrooms. Juniors, if you're listening and you don't think that you're in our classroom, just reach out to us and we'll help you get added. We both have sent out a lot of emails. We have newsletters. We do different programs like tonight. We push out information about programs, that are local to us too. We have software systems. Libertyville has Naviance and Score. Vernon Hills primarily uses Score. And then your school counselors are also very well versed in everything life after high school. And so they are a great resource to students and families throughout this process, in addition to Erin and me. And then you know, like we mentioned, we offer different programming throughout the year, and just check your emails and we will always notify you of what's upcoming. Underneath that initial list, we have a bunch of links, and we're going to send out this slideshow, and so you can look on these links. I'll just highlight a few of them. You know, Erin had mentioned that net price calculators are a very valuable tool. There is one hub where you can search for every college's net price calculator, and it'll link you to their site for that information. College Scorecard and College Navigator, they're great for different reasons. College Scorecard will tell you, you know, their average, the college's average graduation rate, what are people making afterwards. College Navigator talks a little bit more about other stats related to college admissions. Big Future is College Boards. I primarily use it as like a college search tool. You can do a search on their site and find a bunch of different information about colleges without going to each individual college's website. For students who aren't sure, you know, what they want to study, there's a lot of resources out there. One of the things that Erin and I both really like, and not for students necessarily who are interested in University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, but they've put together this program Explorer. We have it listed here as their major Explorer. And you can actually go through and do like a Holland personality type quiz and see, you know, what that would lead you to in terms of different majors, or you can just search up different majors that maybe you've contemplated or heard, read more about it, read more about earnings, what other majors you might like to consider, what careers are available. So those are all, I mean, we could give you links after links after links of different college resources. We're, you know, trying to go through and give you the ones that we think are the best. All right, so second semester, right, it's going to be January, right? You're going to start talking about your classes for senior year, and you will be meeting with your counselor to go over that. I believe at LHS, they meet one-on-one individually with their counselor.
Mm-hmm. And they'll meet in January, yep.
And same with Vernon Hills, okay? And the reason that they take the time to meet one-on-one with students is to make sure that you not only are meeting your graduation requirements, but that you're also taking the classes you need to take to be generally prepared for colleges. Okay, the counselors know roughly, and we can tell you roughly, you know, like every college is going to want you to have 4 years of English, 3 to 4 years of math, 3 to 4 years of science. Where it gets tricky sometimes there are colleges that have unique requirements. For example, in California, the University of California schools or the Cal State schools, they have a 1 year of fine arts requirement. Okay, so for students who tell their counselor they're really interested in going, you know, out to California, that's something that if they haven't already put that in their schedule, you know, freshman, sophomore, junior year, we encourage them to do that for senior year. It's also good to know what are the world language requirements. A lot of some colleges have 0 world language requirements. Some prefer that you would have had 2 years, and that would mean taking Spanish 2. Okay, even if you took Spanish 1 in middle school, Spanish 2 would meet that requirement. Where it can get tricky is some colleges, University of Illinois being a very popular one where we have students go, they require 2 to be admitted, but generally they want you to have 4 in order to graduate. So for juniors who are in Spanish 3 right now, taking that 4th year of Spanish could make it so that you don't have to take language at a college. But that's where, if you have some ideas of places that you might want to apply, go ahead and take a look at what classes they would like you to have. But just know that your counselors have been preparing your schedule every year with the ability, with like the end goal being that you could be admissible to colleges with the number of core classes you've taken. So that's why maybe you haven't always been able to take an elective. It's because colleges require a lot of core courses, and that's going to continue senior year. It'd be good to start thinking about a testing timeline. We told you that in April you will take the state SAT at school, and we register you for that. And a lot of students at Vernon Hills, that's sometimes the first one that they sit for, and they know as a family that they're going to intend to take it more than once, but they register for dates after that April test. And then obviously it's a personal preference if you want to see if you want to take the ACT as well as the SAT. You'll have to take the SAT, like we mentioned, this year in April. And then, as much as possible, we know that scheduling family trips can be difficult, but trying to plan for in-person college visits whenever possible, whether that's over spring break or over the summer. I have a lot of families asking, like, is it worth going over the summer because all of the college kids have gone home? And the fact of the matter is that summer ends up being the best time that works for a lot of families to check out colleges. And as people who visit a lot of college campuses, I can say, like, I've gone over the summer to visit campuses, and while it's not as busy as normal, I am able to get a good feel for a campus. And I think especially it will give your student or students, it'll give you an idea if this is a place that you want to include on your list. And then maybe if you want to see it while there are kids there, if it becomes a more serious contender, a lot of times kids senior year will go back and visit on maybe a 3-day weekend that the high school has.
All right, more things on the second semester task list. We have requests a teacher letter of recommendation if you need one. And again, as the year moves on, we will be sending more guidance about how to know if you need one. But I think it's nice to prompt you with this idea so that you're thinking about core academic teachers that you have hopefully or are connecting with this year as a junior. So when we talk about teacher recommendations that are required for college applications, those campuses are looking for a letter from a teacher that you had for a class. So they are not looking for you to have a coach or an activity director write a letter about your amazingness, because your amazingness is going to come through in lots of other ways. When a school wants a teacher letter, they are really looking for details about your studentness. Who are you in the classroom? How do you participate? How do you work hard through a challenge? So again, just thinking about what class, what classroom, what teacher am I kind of connecting to and with this year that might be a likely support if and as needed in my application process. And typically, again, they're looking for teachers from those core academic areas: math, English, social studies, science, and world language. So we will be sharing more about that, but just planting that little seed for thinking. Keeping track of activities, awards, and experiences. Parents on this call, you are often an amazing support here because your students forget so many amazing things that they do. So this is often a place that maybe the student is tasked with, I'm going to make a list. That might be in an official resume format. That might be in a page of my favorite notebook, handwritten, great. That might be in my notes app and my phone, fine. We just really like the idea of a student being able to do a brain dump of everything they've done outside of the classroom, so that it not only frees up that brain space, but it really makes the application process roll along smoother in the fall, when you don't have to circle back and think like, what did I do freshman year? Or checking off to make sure you've got everything. And I do like to highlight, these activities and things do not have to be school, church, community related. They can be personal activities. So I had a student this year that built a golf cart, had his own kind of mechanical hobby. And that was absolutely a meaningful experience or activity to add to his activity list in his application, even though it was independent and school related, etc. So don't be afraid to think outside the box. Lean on that number one fan in your life who remembers all of your things, and get this out of your head and somewhere safe, so it's done and you can refer to it next year. Getting a jump start on summer activities, right? How are you planning your summer? When you think about getting to the other side of summer of 2023, if a college admissions officer asks you, how did you spend your time this summer? What do you want that answer to look, feel, sound like? Is it work? Is it an internship? Did you volunteer? Did you take a class? Did you read the entire works of Jane Austen and think about it? What and how did you spend your time to make summer meaningful? And it doesn't have to be 10 things, but it should be meaningful and enjoyable to you. And then continuing to narrow these college choices through research, campus visits, talks with your counselor, post-secondary counselor, and parents, teachers, friends. We talked a little about visits and timing. There's so many schools you can get to within an hour of our area. So even if, Carthage College or DePaul, even Loyola, UIC, even if these schools that might be within an hour driving distance aren't necessarily at the top of or on your interest kind of radar, maybe go on a visit anyway, because you learn a lot from places that are kind of unknown, and maybe you might fall in love with it, and you might learn something that you really like that you're looking for on a different campus. But you also learn a lot from those kind of failed visits. So the visit you go on that you're like, oh, I thought I'd love it, and it was a no-go, like that really helps lead you to a good fit. So don't feel like any of these visits or opportunities are wasted time. And then, our task for you, whether it's through Naviance with where you're hearting schools, very social media like, or through SCORE, adding at least 3 campuses to your consideration list by the end of the year. A lot of you have done this already. We are so pleased. We're happy you're pursuing this research and exploration. So just continuing to use your resources as time allows to explore, to daydream, to think about what life looks like for you in the fall of 2024, and kind of working backward to make those daydreams a reality. And just remember too, saving a school to your list of considered campuses, or even starting an application to a school, none of those are commitments. So you are exploring, and it's safe, and you are in the power play position to create options that you are doing so much work to earn these opportunities on such a variety of campuses. So keep being amazing, keep asking questions, and keep researching, dreaming, exploring along the way.
I wanted to answer a question that actually came up during that last slide, which we get asked a lot, which is about letter of recommendations and if those need to come from a junior year teacher. Typically, yes. Those letters are written by teachers who have had you junior year. However, if you have a really good relationship with someone with a teacher from sophomore year who you have stayed in touch with, I think that, that can probably work too. That's something that Ms. Murphy and I answer questions about all the time. So as it gets closer to the time when you're really thinking about which teacher might be the best choice for you, in general, we say whoever you think knows you best as a student and a person. But if there's a little more nuance to it that you want to go over, we would be happy to talk with you about that. But again, you don't need to worry about that quite yet. But yeah, second semester, we'll start emailing more instructions about that process.
And I'm going to jump in just as a quick, this is kind of a personal one, but I think a student set up a meeting with me at LHS and a parent would like to attend. That's great. You just need to email, just send me an email, let me know you'll be here, or have your daughter send me an email, and it's all good. And then I think we shared, is there a way to find interest for a major, like a questionnaire or tool? I would recommend, you've got Naviance and Score depending on your school, but one general tool that I love is My Next Move, because it allows, and we shared that too, you'll get that, but it allows a student to do a quick 60-second Likert scale interest inventory and then link to careers based on varying levels of education. So it gets really in depth, and I do it every year. I'm kind of a nerd about having fun with that stuff. So My Next Move is a cool one for that. Becky, I'm going to keep rolling here. How many letters of rec do you need? It does depend. We typically like students to consider one. There's not a ton of schools that are going to want more than one, but they are out there. And again, questions about letters of rec, it kind of depends on how you're honing that potential list. And then looking at typically the more selective campus is going to ask for more materials. But you're going to be pretty safe with one, and having another teacher in mind or kind of in the toolbox will be a good idea.
Yeah. And I like to remind students that more does not mean better. In the case of letters of rec, you want to follow the instructions of the college. And so if they require one, really, they just want one. And having several letters that talk about you in the same context, right? How you were in a classroom, if they're not going to really be able to expand beyond that, one letter would accomplish that. And so make sure that you're not going over and above the requirements isn't always a positive thing. They want to know that you can also follow directions, and they have thousands of applications to read. And so just want to put that out there too, because we combat that myth quite a bit.
There is a format students will use. There's a process at both schools as far as filling out a Google form, and obviously we give students directions about, talk to the teacher in person before you invite them to do any task for you. Give them at least, I like 3 weeks notice, and always circle back with a thank you. And then absolutely the teacher can be a special education teacher. That we see that every year. And again, we're talking about teacher letters that really address the studentness. So if it's going to be meaningful and explain that, the student's winning with what they've submitted. I'm going to roll with one more and then I'll turn it over. Is there any way to get a ballpark idea of the amount of grants and scholarships the average student gets before you actually apply? Kind of. This is kind of like how I'll tell students a lot, you're applying to, it's like you're trying to buy a car, but you don't know the price till you really love the car and all the options. So it is a little mind-boggling, the process, but I love College Scorecard for this, because you can punch in any school name, and even according to family income level, you can see estimated costs after grants and awards are given to students. So College Scorecard would be a great spot there. And then again, diving into those net price calculators for a specific idea with your family data points is the best bet. And honestly, college, they all have financial aid offices, and I'm always like, call. They're working to answer your questions. Don't be a stranger to financial aid offices. If you're visiting campuses and your student goes off on a student tour, parents, go meet with financial aid and get some questions answered about what your costs might be. That's a great way to kind of conquer and divide. So those would be my best answers.
Yeah, and I think the important thing is to not cross a college off your list based off the sticker price, because looking into it further, you might see that, 99% of students who attend get some sort of financial aid. So it does absolutely make the college search process more complicated and a little backwards. But there are some tools that can help along the way, like Erin mentioned. Quick question. Somebody asked if volunteer hours are required for graduation. They are not. Someone also asked if a student takes an AP language course by junior or senior year, would that meet like 4 years? And yeah, it would be, you would max out our curriculum. That would be, in most cases, a level 4 or 5 class, and you would be good to go.
Yep. Do colleges track interest? Some do. So I wouldn't lose sleep over demonstrated interest or trying to demonstrate interest, but in a very official answer, schools can see which students open their emails and how long they spend on each email. So they can get really into the weeds on that kind of demonstrated interest. I do think it's best practice, if the schools your students interested in are visiting your school or you have a chance to visit, making sure, even if you do a unofficial visit, stop in the admissions office and like get someone's card and send them a quick note. Like, I loved the dining hall, or I loved that you had a Chick-fil-A on campus, whatever it may be. Just kind of those connections matter. But demonstrated interest is one of those kind of maybes.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Somebody asked, going along with the financial piece of this, which is a huge piece, when their students should start applying for scholarships. And the fact of the matter is that when you hear students that are getting large amounts of scholarship money, it's generally from the colleges themselves. And a lot of times a student's application for admission will get them automatic consideration for scholarships. Otherwise, maybe your student would apply to the college, get accepted, and then the college may send them an email saying like, you're invited to apply for this scholarship, or here's our scholarship database. But what I say, and Erin, let me know if you say something different, like the fact of the matter is a lot of scholarship opportunities don't become available until what I call application season in the fall of senior year. So at the beginning of December, mid-December, I'm going to be sending out some information to senior families about scholarships, because really December is when those private scholarships, community scholarships kind of pick up, and those will be most of the time, 500 here, there, maybe 1,000. But the kids who work on them are able to stack them up into a nice amount. A lot of money can go untouched if no one applies.
Quick question about public versus private university or college. So a public university is going to receive funding from the state, from the government. So that's one big dividing factor. And a private university is going to have been founded on private principles, often maybe with religious background. Although I'm actually glad this question came up. We could do a whole presentation on it. If you are applying to a school that was founded as a Jesuit institution and has Catholic background, it does not mean you have to be Catholic, a practicing Catholic, or a practicing person of any faith to be admitted and thrive on that campus. So a lot of the public versus private is funding. Privates are going to have bigger sticker prices. They're also going to typically have larger endowments and a more generous pool to try to cut the cost down for students. So that's a big piece, a big defining factor. And often a private institution is typically going to be smaller to mid-size, but big pieces are funding, things like that. Courses, go ahead.
So there was a question about if there's any courses outside of the core that colleges like to see. And truly the most important things to the college admission process are the core classes. And so there's not always a ton of time in a student's schedule to take classes outside of that. Obviously, if your child has an interest in business and has been able to take a business class, like they will see that the student has explored that interest. But if your student hasn't had a chance to take that because they've loaded up on other classes, that is definitely something colleges are aware of, and they do primarily weight the core classes. Some students, if they know that they want to go into a STEM field, they may load up senior year and take, more than one science class. But really, as long as students are meeting their general requirements, we want them to be happy and healthy and have a balanced schedule too. Like there's no magic formula to what colleges are wanting. And there was a question in here about if students, if colleges are looking at weighted or unweighted GPAs. And, I always tell seniors, we'll just put down the higher one if they give you the option, right? So colleges absolutely are looking at the rigor of classes, but the fact of the matter is, they may be recalculating GPAs behind the scenes to just count the classes that they care about for their admission practices. So it's kind of like you can't necessarily know exactly what happens behind closed doors, but we can say for sure that colleges are looking at rigor. They will look at the higher of the two GPAs if they give you the option, and they're looking at the performance in the core courses.
And I'll just tag on, they want to see that you've made your high school experience meaningful for you around the requirements. So there's a question that just came in, look and compare your grades and levels of the class over the years. Absolutely. So they're going not in a way that you're judged if you're taking all college prep coursework and doing well. That's fantastic. But they definitely notice or see that if you are able or choose to take any honors courses or any AP courses and what those patterns look like. So again, if you're super into science and that's where you dive into the rigor and challenge, that's phenomenal. No, we certainly don't want anyone to leave here thinking every course I have to be maxed out in every course. I like to tell students, I hope you're coming to school with at least one class that really feeds your soul and is a reason to come here. And I, again, happy and healthy, a balance and able to participate in activities and do your best in what's in front of you. So yeah, they are looking for growth. Some great questions I've had from juniors recently related is freshman year was wonky. I didn't do well. We were still in kind of a weird place and my grades were but I've done really well sophomore and so far this year. So that's noted and that's also explainable. So so the transcript is and will remain a central hub of review and admissions. So know your transcript, protect your transcript, and juniors, you are, like Ms. Bolito said, you are right now filling in the blanks on junior year of your transcript. So put your all into it, and your all is specific and unique to you. So you decide and make it happen. But that academics are the priority this year for sure. And I do want to point out, as we've told juniors in some recent meetings, your senior courses, while you won't have grades, your senior schedule will be reviewed and evaluated in the admissions process. So I like to tell juniors, don't give up on us, don't quit. Not only will a lean senior schedule reflect not in the best way for an applicant, it's not going to help you prepare for that institution you're heading to after graduation. So stay engaged, dive in, make it meaningful. It's hard to say the number of AP courses ideal to spread over junior and senior year. Again, that's going to be what's manageable and feels right to you. And again, starting with those areas of interest. Dive in there first. And then one question that's been up for a minute real quick is how does filling out the FAFSA, which is a financial aid form, fit into timeline for juniors? You don't have to worry about that this year. You will start October of 2023. Your FAFSA will open, and we'll be pushing out info ahead of that and through that. The key to know there is that you will use 2022 taxes on your students' FAFSA. So keeping track, and I can't keep track of tax years, but you will want your 2022 tax returns to complete the FAFSA process. And we'll dive into that some more next year.
Okay. And then we have one last question that again could be its own presentation in and of itself. It was a question about community college and how that factors in with all of this. And I would say community college is an excellent option for students for a variety of reasons. For some, it's the financial piece. Some students aren't quite ready to leave home yet and feel more comfortable like sticking with the part-time job they have around here and taking classes at CLC for a year. You know, they will accept everyone, but they will be looking at your transcript and your test scores in order to place you in courses. If you take 2 years of CLC or community college courses, when you go to apply to transfer to schools, and you can transfer to any 4-year school, they no longer are going to look at your high school grades. So for some students, if they feel like high school didn't really demonstrate their full capability, sometimes they like the reset and doing a couple of years at community college and then being able to send, you know, their community college grades to wherever they are looking to transfer. And some students will only spend a year, you know, at community college, and just like some kids go off to a 4-year school and maybe decide that it wasn't the right fit for them after all. And then they get in touch with us in terms of how to get their high school material sent. So CLC, a lot of students will apply to 4-year schools and CLC, right? They might not know from the get-go what their exact plan is, so they'll apply to both. And so that is something that we work with our seniors closely, especially the ones who know that they're interested in community college. We're able to partner them with our CLC advisor who's partnered with the high schools. So, I just want to mention once again that we are available to meet with students, and parents are definitely welcome to attend. We are both going to be sending an email to all junior families once our recording is processed and ready to be shared out. And I know personally, like, I will include a few bullet points of information that pertain specifically to how to make an appointment with me, or things to like keep in mind with SCORE. So stay tuned for that. Be on the lookout for yet another email from me, and students, it would be lovely if you would read them as well. Erin, anything else you want to add?
Just thanks for hanging with us tonight and supporting your student. We look forward to working with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right, everyone, have a great evening. Don't hesitate to reach out, and we will get back to you with the recording and slides from this presentation as soon as our IT can get that ready for us. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.